Hi everyone, today I'm going to make some hands. I wouldn't call this a tutorial, I'm just going to show you how I make them. So first of all, the supplies that you'll need are some Wireform. Well, I use Wireform, you don't actually need it, I find that it does help. Some thick wire, this is a 1.6mm thick wire, a pen, some thinner wire for doing kind of like the stitching. This is a 0.25mm, and then I use color is ivory. I get this from Scientific Wire. It's a company in England, so it doesn't shine through. The silver doesn't shine through on the fingers. Then you just need your basic tools, which would be cutters and pliers for the wires and your sculpting tools. To start, you would take a piece of the Wireform, which I have some cut-offs, old pieces here, and with a pen draw a shape of the palm of the hand, the size that you want it. So you'll also need a pair of scissors if you're using Wireform, and then you cut out the shape that you just drew to make a palm shape. Then taking the thicker wire, you would cut two pieces about 10 centimeters long and use the pliers to make a kind of a loop on the end, like that. And then for the fingers, you'll need to cut some of the ivory colour wire, or you can use silver, it's just that ivory stops it showing through so much. Cut about a 7 centimeter long strip, and you'll need to cut 3 of those. Bend the wire in half, and this is where it gets a bit fiddly. First of all, you want to tie the mesh to the thicker wire. So then taking your thin wire, which you're going to use like thread, cut a piece off, take the thicker wire that you made the loop and wind it around a few times. Then take the piece of mesh that you cut to look like a palm, thread it through the holes to attach it. Just thread it through a few times to attach it to the thicker wire. Then take the piece of ivory wire that you've bent in half and thread it through one of the holes in the mesh so that you make a thumb, and then wind it round the bottom. Then I wind a little bit of the thin wire around the ivory coloured wire to form grips so that the clay has something to hold on to. And then cut off the excess. And then you would carry on doing this for each finger. Cut another piece of about 7 centimeter long wire, bend it in half, thread it through the holes at the top in the mesh. If you didn't want to use mesh, you could attach them all straight to the wire that has a loop in it. You could just attach them all and have them all stand up from there, but I find that this makes the hand less bulky if you have a piece of mesh. And then you would use the thin wire again to loop around and attach it. Once it's attached, you just wind it around the finger, and you continue doing that until you have 4 fingers and a thumb. Once you reach this stage, you would need to take some of your clay. Now this is clay I've pre-mixed, that is potato clay, mixed quick, and Fimo. So you take a piece of clay and press it onto your wire armature, just a thin piece, and you do the same for the other side. Then you take tiny little pieces, roll them into a sausage and attach them to each one. Just very thin. You need to press it and pull it so that it becomes very, very thin, because this is only the underneath armature. It still needs to lay more clay over the top of things. So continue to do that on each finger until it looks like this. Once you've cured it, this is what it will look like. First of all, you'll need to measure this against the head of your figure, because the palm of your hand would be on your chin, and then your longest finger would reach just above your eyebrows. So once you've measured that, you mark it off and you cut each one of these to the right length. and I use my own hand as a reference to which fingers are longer and shorter. Refine the ends because you don't want your fingers to be very fat on the ends, so just cut a little bit of the excess clay off so that they can taper towards the ends. Once you've done that, you then take some more clay and start to sculpt the hand over the clay armature that I've just made. And once again, you just lay it on like you did before and do the same for the fingers. Taking a little piece and rolling it into a sausage and then coating each finger with the next layer of clay. I usually have to put a piece on one half and then another piece on the other. And you would continue to do this to each one of the fingers until it looks like this. I've also shaped the palm of the hand a little bit. So once I've got it all on, then I can start to actually shape the hand. I use these tools, one is slightly bigger than the other, to shape the fingers and the hand. You might wonder why it has masking tape wrapped around them. That is to stop the grey colouring of the metal getting onto your clay, because when your fingers touch it, it could transfer onto your clay. So now I would just start to carry on using good reference. I use Anatomy for the Artist. Their website is very good for getting web reference, but any good picture of a hand to use as your reference, and then just sculpt and refine the fingers until they are the way you want them. I use my knife as well to just take off some of the clay, make the fingers thinner. Once you get to this stage, if you leave it for a while, the clay will become a little bit harder again, a little bit firmer, and then it's easier to sculpt with. But I would continue to do this until I had sculpted the whole hand to be rough like this. At this point, you're ready to smooth it. To smooth it, I use thinners, just keep the lid on so that it doesn't make the place smell. Although this is low odour thinner, someone did point out, which is a good point, that even though you can't smell it doesn't mean it's not there. So it's probably still a good idea to keep the lid on when you're not using it. So I take a brush, I get these quite cheap brushes for smoothing, and just dip it in. That's why I have the paper on my desk. I can just wipe off the excess, and then I just use it to smooth out all of the marks I've made while sculpting the shape of the hand. So you just continue to do this until everything is smooth. Once the hand is smoothed out all over, you can also use the brush to make little dents where there maybe things aren't quite refined enough. You can use the brush to refine it a little bit more as well. Once you've smoothed the whole hand out, to make the nails, I use a tool I made many years ago that is still going. I think I made it when I first started sculpting. It is a needle that I just made a handle for, so it has a very sharp point. And at this point, I usually put on my goggles, because then I can see exactly what I'm doing. You just use the needle to mark off the nails. And then once you've done every nail, that's what you'll have. I also use the needle tool to make the creases in the knuckles and the creases in the hand as well. So that's how I make hands. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps.